Nazeem Martin, MD of Business Partners Limited, today launched the Square Peg Movement, as well as a 300 million rand manufacturing fund. Nazeem, what exactly is the Square Peg Movement?
The Square Peg Movement, in our view, is a call to action for all South Africans, especially those who aspire to become entrepreneurs, those who wish to grow their businesses, and those established entrepreneurs. It's a call to action for them to go out there and grow their businesses. And the rationale behind it is simple, that we need entrepreneurs to establish, grow businesses in order to ensure that our economy grows again, in order to ensure that wealth is created for individuals, being the entrepreneurs and their families, in order to ensure that we broaden the tax base from which government can use to address some of the social ills in our society, and then also so that they go out there and create more jobs for South Africans. So it's a virtuous call, a call for South Africans to pursue entrepreneurship, not because they've lost their job or because they can't find a job, but to pursue it because it's a noble career, a career which can make a positive difference in their lives and that of society at large.
So today you launched a 300 million rand manufacturing fund. Tell us a little bit about that fund.
You know, entrepreneurs, when you ask them what are the challenges confronting them, one of the first answers they're going to give you is access to finance. We have, through 33 years of trial and error, being involved exclusively in the SME sector, realized that if all you give entrepreneurs out there is money, then on the day on which you write out the check, then make another entry into your books. It's called provision for bad debt, because it's going to happen. We think entrepreneurs, especially those who are new to business and who start out in business, need much more than just access to finance. They need a lot of handholding, a lot of support, financial support, management support, non-financial support like marketing, legal, and so on. Being an entrepreneur is a very lonely world. So we thought, let's start a fund that provides people in a particular sector not only with money, but which understands the sector well, will be able to have the flexibility to structure financial solutions in such a way that it takes cognizance of the nuances of that industry. For example, there might be a seasonality component to a manufacturing business. If that is the case, then the funding must be structured in such a way that no or low repayments are requirement when cash flow in the business is pretty low. But when the cash flow is there, then one gets some more money out of the business as the financier. So it's a specialist fund, which means we develop a knowledge base and an understanding of the sector so that we are able to structure financial solutions flexibly. But it's more than that. It also means that we provide a whole range of other support over and above the finance. And here we're talking about access to information. I said a little earlier, entrepreneurship is a very lonely career. Often entrepreneurs are everything to their businesses. They are the CEO, the CFO, the janitor, the secretary, everything rolled into one. And they don't have access to peers with whom they can network. Over and above the funding, we will be arranging peer mentorship and networking sessions, workshops where we will get experts, whether they be in particular disciplines or anything in relation to that particular industry. We will address groups of entrepreneurs. They can network among themselves, share war stories, learn from one another, and we can impart some industry-specific knowledge to them, which will help them not only ensure their business survives, but that it indeed grows. Over and above that, we've also identified specialist mentors who understand the manufacturing industry, as an example, who, when the business is underperforming, can sit down with the entrepreneur under our guidance and help the entrepreneur fix things up, taking cognizance and being mindful of the particular nuances of that industry. So the manufacturing fund is the first of a suite of specialist sector-specific SME funds that we are launching. We are planning to launch similar funds for other sectors, like tourism. We are also planning, for example, in the coming months to launch a fund earmarked purely at youth. Now, that's not industry or sector specific, but it certainly takes cognizance of the challenges that youth experience. They may have a brilliant technical skill, but they may not have the necessary management skills. They may not necessarily have access to networking opportunities. They may not have the non-financial support or the business expertise to run their businesses. So the thinking behind it is, by building up in-house expertise in sectors, launching a fund which will finance entrepreneurs in those sectors, we will be able to customize the funding to meet the specific requirements of those sectors. In addition to that, we will be able to provide the necessary support which will ensure the success of the entrepreneur, but it will also help us manage our risk as financier in the process.
So today you had the Minister of Small Business Development, Lindiwe Zulu, give a keynote address at the launch. What was her key message, and are you quite encouraged by what that department is doing?
We were quite encouraged by her call for partnerships with the private sector. We heard her say and acknowledge that, of course, government has a role to play in the economy. Of course, they formulate the laws and the regulations, and that shapes the playing fields within which business operates. But they can't do everything on their own. She called for the private sector, including organizations such as ourselves, to share the knowledge, the know-how, the expertise and experience in having successfully financed entrepreneurs over a protracted period, spanning more than 33 years, to work with her department. So that for us is extremely positive, that government doesn't simply want to sit behind closed doors and formulate policies, processes, programs in such a way that they don't take cognizance of the realities of what other people can of the small business industry, which other people with a lot of experience in it can share with them. And I think she also acknowledged that we have too few entrepreneurs in our country. So she was very pleased that an organization such as ourselves were launching this Square Peg movement. The Square Peg movement being really celebrating entrepreneurship, honoring entrepreneurs, the very few amongst us who dare to dream and actually pursue those dreams, often against the advice of many others, but they pursue it relentlessly with dogged determination, risking much of their assets and their skills in the process. So these are special people. And the movement, the Square Peg movement is an attempt to encourage more South Africans to engage in entrepreneurship. We talked a little bit earlier today about the state of entrepreneurship in South Africa. And based on the most credible survey in our country, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, or the GEMS survey, which is done annually by the UC Graduate School of Business, only about 12% of South Africans intentionally engage in entrepreneurial activities, compared to about 27% in similar efficiency-driven economies. We also know that only 7% of adult South Africans aged 18 to 65 are engaged in some form of early-stage entrepreneurial activity, compared to our peer countries, similar efficiency-driven economies, with the corresponding figure is about 14%. So there are too few South Africans who see entrepreneurship as a career path. Too many of us try and get an education, and once we've got an education, we go out there and look for a job. That's not going to help solve our country's pressing paltry or pedestrian economic growth problems. It's not going to help us solve the unemployment, poverty, and inequality problem which afflicts our country and is not good for business, because how can business do successful business in a society where we have the levels of poverty and unemployment that we are experiencing? So it's a virtuous process that we've launched. She was very, very excited to be part of that particular movement. So she was happy about what we were trying to achieve, and she spoke very highly of what she saw through our presentation earlier today.
So what now? What type of manufacturers will be approaching you what will be the process for them to take advantage of such a lucrative...
Simple. Come to us with your plan for setting up a new business, if that is what you're doing, for growing your business, if that is what you're doing, or for restructuring the balance sheet of your business. Given that, if one looks at the last 5 years, it's been troubling times for much of the economy. Many manufacturers have been struggling for all range of reasons. So, and despite the weak rand, the weak rand may benefit exporters, but manufacturers who supply into the local market may be disadvantaged because they may be importing machinery and therefore having to pay in dollars and paying much more in rand terms. Therefore, so what we are really going to be doing is inviting entrepreneurs in the manufacturing sector to approach us for funding. We will consider funding applications from a minimum of 500,000 rand to a maximum of 25 to 30 million rand, absolute maximum exposure to an entrepreneur. They can approach us with their plan or their business plan. We will sit down with them, work through that. Within 7 working days of receiving their business plan, we'll provide them with an in-principle indication as to whether we have an appetite for the deal or not, and then we will do full due diligence in order to determine how we can structure a transaction which the cash flow of the business can afford, the entrepreneur is comfortable with, and we get fairly rewarded for the risk that we take in the transaction.